Hey everyone, welcome back to My Ambition.
Hi, guys.
Hello, we have a special guest for you today. And as usual, this is Tiffany and
Hi, everyone. It's Alex. Okay, right. Well, I'm going to do the intro. We've got LA-based recording artist Sammi Doll with us. Sammi, whoa,
Sammi,
okay.
Sammi. Guys, I wish this was a video thing because she's absolutely beautiful.
Well, I feel like we'll have to take a picture, but yeah, I'm feeling decidedly less glamorous, I have to
Yes,
say.
same.
Okay, so to do a bit of an introduction, so Sammi is best known as the stage right femme-fatale, and I aspire to have a bio that contains the words femme-fatale, I have to say. Synth player and backing vocalist for dark alternative synth-led IAMX. A chance encounter with John Courtney, who's from Pure Reason Revolution, in between tours led to Sammi collaborating with him on industrial-influenced prog rock band Bullet Height. They were signed to Sony and Super Bowl Music, and released their critically acclaimed debut, No Atonement, in 2017. And then in Feb 2020, Kat Von D, I'm sure we all know who Kat Von D is, but the entrepreneur and artist, tattoo artist, musician, announced that Sammi would be joining her live band, playing synth and doing backing vocals for her debut and forthcoming tours. So, what a bio.
What an entrance. I love it. I mean, yes, girl, own it.
It's a heck of an intro. You went for it.
I went for it, yeah. I mean, one of the reasons we wanted to have you on is because of that amazingly cool and very different resume.
Yeah.
You know, the kind of people we've had on so far, the kind of people who are in maybe a bit more of a 9-to-5 corporate world, and people who are doing kind of career coaching. And I think one of the things that I thought was really cool about your career is how different it is. And I guess it's the kind of career that is, I think people would presume is quite hard to juggle with family. So tell us a bit about yourself and, yeah, what your family setup is, what ambition means to you. And then I guess we'll chip in and ask you some questions.
Oh, great. Well, thank you so much for having me. There's a lot of questions there. So what, I guess first thing is first, I am really grateful to still be able to do everything that I do because it's all that I know. And I knew that as soon as I found out that I was pregnant, which I've wanted to have a baby all my life, I just didn't know when the right time was because of my career.
Mm-hmm.
And, the older I got, the more I realized things don't wait. Life doesn't wait, and in fact, when you decide to stand still, that's, for one reason or another, whether it be your career or, the circumstances aren't exactly correct, which were both of those were my situation. When I found out that I was pregnant with my son, it was the first time that I had ever been pregnant. And I knew that if I waited any longer, it probably wouldn't have happened for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm a firm believer of, thinking that things happen for the right reasons. And, there are signs that the universe gives you all the time. And this was a giant sign for me to pay attention to myself and realize okay, yes, I'm not getting any younger. This is a gift and this is something I've always wanted. So why not? And I know that really goes against the traditional grain of, okay, let's all get married. And then, let's plan to have a child, which is, I don't knock it all. In fact, I admire that. But the way that my life has always been led, I've always been at the mercy of other people's schedules, whether it be, okay, well, we need to block this amount of months off because we're going to go touring, or we need to block this amount of months off because we're going to be recording. And it's okay, well, my life is constantly waiting on other people. So this was a decision that I made for myself. And I was very, I think I was scared at first to think that, okay, well, now I'm going to lose everything because now I'm not as available as I used to be.
Yeah.
But in fact, that wasn't the case because I didn't allow it to be the case. There was definitely, I'm not going to sit here and say that there weren't times that were hard, and there's definitely some missed opportunities and some tours and things that I haven't been able to go on, just to make sure that myself was healthy, and baby was healthy, and that I don't want to miss any of the milestones or anything, leading up to the first couple of years of life. So there were a lot of sacrifices, just like any moms make, just in my career, and my availability, that was a big hit. But I did take it hard at first, but at the same time, I realized like just changing your perspective on things a little bit really helps. And I looked at it now not as something that I can't do, but something that my son gets to experience with me.
Yeah,
and so,
that's really cool.
So he's now my forever +1.
I love that. I love that, Sammi, especially like I'm a big believer for perspectives and like lenses. And I think we don't just live life, we live according to the lenses that we put on. So I'm interested to know a bit more about kind of this new lens you have about how you now see your career and your son being part of that.
So I've been very fortunate.
Mhm.
I've been very fortunate to work with Kat. We mentioned her in the intro, and she has a little boy as well. And I believe, you know, she's very career driven entrepreneur as well. And when she had her son, things didn't stop for her. And she was such an inspiration to me, just watching how hard that she continued to work and juggling multiple businesses. And also, when I came on board, we were mostly producing her album that has already been out now since that bio has been written. But this was also during quarantine. It was really, really interesting, that whole situation, because I really, really got a close bird's eye view of how she runs her family, because I moved into her guest house. Like, you know, quarantine was a weird time for everybody. This is before my son, but I didn't know, nobody knew what was going to happen during that time. And I know that we're also very creative minded, and we were all living in LA, and she was like, why don't you bring your cat? And I've got a guest house and you can live there, and then we can just make music through this whole thing, and we can pod together. And so that's what we did.
So good.
It was really cool. And then her son was very young at the time. I think he was maybe 1.5, which is a little bit younger than what my son is now. And I just watched how hard she worked and how her family unit worked. You know, like her husband was very hands-on as well. So when she was in the studio working, then he would take over, and then, you know, they would switch. And it was so nice. And then, watching, her son come in and be really interested in all of the keyboards and pressing buttons. And
say so many buttons to press.
Yeah, and it was so fun. And he's such a sweet little boy. And so watching his curiosity and how much she embraced that. And then we went on a tour, like a short tour, because it was still kind of weird in COVID in 2021. And he came with us. So it was great. And I remember when I told her, she was one of the first people that I told that I was pregnant. And we were at a photo shoot. I was about 14 weeks at that time. And I said, hey, so what's the deal for the rest of, the year? And she's like, what do you mean? She's like, oh, we've got this tour that's going to end in May. And I'm like, okay, because in August I'm going to have a baby. And she was just so excited. She was just like, I don't even think there was anything in her mind that was like, oh no, the tour, there wasn't anything like that. She was just like, she was so overjoyed. And she was just like, I've always thought about what a great mother you would be. This is amazing. Much later, she was like, are you still going to be able to do the tour? Because, what? I'm like, no, of course I will. I will 100%. I won't be that pregnant. I mean, I will be pregnant, but not, unable to walk or perform or play my instrument at that time. And so we were definitely on board for that. And she was just all about it. And afterwards, she was just like, you're going to bring him on tour with us, right? And my heart just like exploded, because the opportunity there, it's like, okay, well, not only do I not have to stop being who I am, I now work with somebody who's very family first and very family oriented, but music is still very much her soul. And so when we have been on tour, like, her family comes. So her son comes, her husband comes, and it's just a really wonderful support system.
It's got to be quite a different environment on tour as well.
It is. It's very different from like when I'm touring with IAMX, for example. That's it's just a different atmosphere. Like when you involve kids, it's a completely different dynamic.
Yeah, yours.
It really is. It's a dynamic because everybody's living on the same bus, and everybody, not everybody has kids, not everybody has the patience for it, and that's or the understanding. And she's really, really done a good job of making sure that the people that work with her and around her are very much, they're very much understanding that, hey, this is a family run thing. So, if
it's part of the package.
Yeah. If that's something that bothers you, then perhaps you're not the right fit for this tour. So, it's just been really lovely to have her support. And, you know, we have some dates. We haven't toured since then, but we have some dates that haven't been announced yet that are coming up at the end of the year. So
exciting.
Really hoping that and looking forward to putting all of this in motion.
And is the plan to, you know, go on the road with your little boy and stuff as well?
That's the plan. Yeah, that's the plan.
So cool.
We're not doing too many dates, so it won't be just like it won't be like, you know, throwing him in the fire really quickly. You know, there's some fly dates, and there's you know, there's a lot just weekend stuff as well. So it'll just be nice to give him a little taste of it and see if it works for him. You know, like it could be completely the opposite, where, you know, I'll have to drop him off with dad because it won't work for him. But the best part about it is that the availability there to try. You know.
Okay.
Yeah, because, you know, I think when you've got a career like yours, there is that real emotional connection to it, and you've worked really hard to get to where you are. So then, you know, you really don't want to kind of let that go. You know, obviously having kids is such a big thing, but to feel like you can't do one of the things that's like really essential to being you, I think it's really amazing that you've still got the opportunity to do it.
Thank you. Thank you. That it wasn't always like that. And I think that a lot of moms can probably relate to this. Like after having your babies, you just kind of lose yourself a little bit. I think it's really common, and I definitely went through, I'm not a stranger to that either. You know, I went through this phase where I was like, nothing, I don't feel like myself in my body. You know, none of my clothes fit, none of my let me just change my hair and see if that helps, you know. Just like that you can control, you know. And it always ends up being like, why did I do that, you know? It took me a long time, in fact about a year and a half, I won't say a year and a half, but probably a little bit between a year and a half for me to find my footing again, to feel more comfortable and mostly confident in my skin and in my new body, and really embrace it. And it really, oh gosh, but that first year, and I would say year and a half, was really tough. It was really tough. I didn't know if I ever would want to be on stage again. You know, I didn't. It's hard, and like especially those first 6 months after my son was born, it was like, oh my gosh, is this ever going to get easier? You know, because it's very challenging. I was very blessed with my son wasn't a very fussy baby, but I know that there are definitely moms out there that are just like, man, I need a break, you know.
Yeah.
We've all,
I felt that in my soul.
Yeah, we can all relate to it, and we miss a little bit of the elements of how it was before, but at the same time, change it for the world, you know.
Yeah,
I'd love to know a bit more about that, actually, Sammi, if you don't mind. Yeah, just kind of because I think I didn't, you know, when we think about the women who might be listening to this, and they might be at that stage, right, where they are just, they've had a baby, everything's changing. Obviously, you talked about like changing your hair and things like that, but I'd love to know if you can cast your mind back on maybe small things that you did. I know it, you know, it could have been big things, small things, because you talked through more about maybe the things you did at that time, or the mindset that you developed that really helped you to just see things a bit differently, or help you feel a bit better, and, you know, work towards who you are now today.
Thank you. Yeah. I would say that there's a couple of things that come to mind, but the very first one that sticks out like a sore thumb is I got myself enrolled in therapy.
Okay.
And that really, really helped, because there was so much that was going on in my life where, yeah, my career was put on hold. I wasn't working. I was, you know, just a slave to my baby that really relied on me. But then I couldn't really go out and see anybody. I couldn't see my friends. There was this big, I mean, I could, but there was this big divide because I was the only person in my friend group who had a baby. So, you know, maybe some of the things that I would have been invited to or involved with in the past are not appropriate for small children, you know, or too late, or I'm unavailable. So I really felt isolated in a way, and I think being a mom, this is also a very truthful thing, being a mom in itself, when you don't have that kind of a support system with your friends, it's very isolating, because you don't have anybody you can relate to, or anybody that you feel like, okay, I can just let my kids be rabid, you know, and it's fine, you know, they're going to be fine, you know, just have a glass of wine over here with other moms, and while they're just running all over the place and chasing each other and falling down or whatever. And I just didn't have that. So it was extremely important for me when I sought out my therapist, who I have, who's very great. She's also a mom, and she was just helping me through, I wouldn't say postpartum depression, because I didn't have that, but it was just a depression that followed mourning the loss of I would say the freedoms and the things that I was now excluded from, which I knew, and I should have. You are prepared for that, but you're never really prepared for it, you know?
Yeah, completely get that, because I think it's the whole thing of being a mum. You hear that it's hard, you hear you'll be tired, you hear that your life will change completely, and you think, no, it'll be fine. Like, I'll be going on holiday with my baby, I'll be on a plane and doing this and doing that. And actually, in reality, it's a lot harder. And I don't think anything can prepare you for how hard it is. Like, people who, I think, until you sit in those shoes, is that an expression? Like, until you're in those shoes, I think you just can't really get your head around it. But the isolation sounds really tough.
Yeah, it was. And I think it was more of a mindset. So bringing it back to what Tiffany had said, was it was a mindset that I had in myself that I convinced myself of. Like, nobody wants to be around a screaming child, or nobody wants to like do that. So I would then in turn isolate myself even more. Mm-hmm. So talking it through with my therapist, just like a little telehealth person, she was really helpful in identifying the things that I was creating in my head and the things that were actually, real factors. So, and I think with me, once I have a name to something where it's like, oh no, that's just in my head, it's like, okay, well then I can practice I'm just doing that thing again, So, and it's weird because I never used to have that. I never did that. I was never so in my head before, but I think because of feeling so isolated, and then just having this routine that I've never had before, that was something that it was just really tough. But identifying that was really helpful in starting to feel like myself again. Another thing was my partner and I split up, which was very helpful to me. It wasn't helpful at the time, but it was really helpful to me because I realized how different we were and how really we just had very two different ideas of how life should be led with a baby. So okay. I think separating myself from that was really helpful. And in that, even though it felt isolating at the time, now that I'm, almost a year out of it, I feel so much more like myself and so much more level. And I know that I can parent the way that I want to parent, and he can parent the way that he wants to parent. And then we're not just at each other's throats or at each other's necks, and that's much healthier for our son.
Yeah, definitely. And is that working okay in terms of like co-parenting? Like, obviously, if you've got different kind of styles of parenting, how is that? Is it okay, or?
I'll be honest with you, no.
Okay.
It's really difficult. It's very difficult, but and we're currently going through just a custody battle where it's all in court and everything. So, and that's very real. I bring this up because that's a very real situation. That's a very real thing that some people go through. And there are, ways that, there are cool co-parents where they're like, hey, let's just, be cool about this. And like, hey, I'll help you out. You help me out. Let's just make sure we both can see our kid. And then there are high conflict situations, which is kind of like the one that I'm in, which okay. It's not impossible. We both love our son. We just have very different ideas of how he should be brought up and raised, and the inner workings of all of it. I've got a coach who helps me out with how I need to communicate with him and all of that, and react or not react, and that's been very helpful too. So she's saying like, look, I see this all the time. It's never going to be perfect, and it's going to take a couple years for you guys to find your groove. Mm-hmm. But it's much better that you're doing it now, so that when I know that my son is taking in everything, but of course, like once he's able to comprehend like what people are saying and like the tone and what things mean, it'll have calmed down by then. And I'm really optimistic that we'll be able to have a way forward that works for both of us.
Oh,
I think having sorry, go on, Tiffany.
No, it's okay. I was just saying, thanks for sharing that, because I think everybody goes through difficult times, and we love to all give this perception of everything is so great, but I think this is life. We all have something that we're dealing with. So I'm glad that you shared that, and you also kind of shared how you sought professional help with it, because I think sometimes we don't appreciate the perspective of a professional or someone that can help you to think beyond this moment. So that was useful, and for anyone who might be going through that, they can see hopefully some lights at the end of the tunnel.
Oh, I highly recommend it.
Yeah. So where are you today then, would you say, in terms of your confidence and kind of embracing this new identity of yourself?
Oh, I'm so much happier. I'm so much happier. I think a lot of it comes from, my son is going to be almost 2. So that also comes with how I can interact with him too. He is very still dependent on me, but I'm still like, he can walk now, and he's got opinions, and he's, so it's a lot easier, I think, for me to be more fun with him than I am to be more like, I've got to hold him all the time, or, he's got this thing that he needs. Like, it's just way more interactive and way more fun. And I think that has also helped in just being able to find my footing again. It's he's just not in a car seat sitting there, and I'm not feeling bad for him. He's up, he's touching stuff, he's crawling all over things, he's climbing, he's falling, and it's this constant interaction. And that's really helped me, because he's so cool. Like, I love we all love our kids. I know my kid is so cool, and I love hanging out with him. So that's really helped. And then, just reconnecting, getting out of my head. So with the therapy that I took, that I've been taking, I still see her, because it's a struggle. It's not like you can take a couple sessions and then you're fixed. You're constantly needing to work on yourself and unpack things that perhaps you didn't realize that you needed to. And it's a really big investment in yourself. And I think once you can further understand yourself, and why things are the way they are, and why you feel the way that you do, you become much happier, because you attach words and reason to it. So all of that has been a factor in it. And then, I've been picking up instruments again and writing songs and feeling inspired, which I hadn't done for years, to be honest, And I think that comes with the freedom of being split from my partner, and also just the inspiration that I find in a new lease in life, and not looking at things negatively for what I've lost, but looking at things for what I've gained. And that, brings it back to my son. Like, he's inspiration to me. And I know that sounds so like cheesy, because there's definitely some moms out there that are like, oh, shut up, but it's like,
I don't think the mums think
There
that.
will be.
I think the mums get that. Like,
Yeah,
I really do.
I really do. Yeah, I do.
Everyone's
sure
like,
we
oh,
do.
my kid is the greatest
We
thing
do
ever.
think
And like,
that.
you've got to feel like that, haven't you?
Yeah,
And they
otherwise-
do inspire you to do stuff.
I think we're wired like that. Otherwise, imagine kids.
But I did like what you said. I did like what you said, Sammi, about the fact that as they get older, they get more interesting as well. And you have that like two-way interaction with them, where they are kind of more inspiring. And I guess for me, Ted comes out with some really funny things. And you think, oh, that's how you see the world. And you kind of see it through that innocent little pair of eyes who, they're discovering everything for the first time. So yeah, I get the inspiration kind of thing. But the bit about, for me, I think the first bit of parenting, there's a lot of drudgery to it, and it is kind of isolating. And one of my friends said to me, I won't name her on this, but it's really boring, because she has her like little one 6 months before mine.
The amount of I get that. Like, sometimes it's just like the amount of, sometimes in like 30 minutes, you've changed someone's nappy, you've picked out for someone. There is a lot of that, like cleaning this, and so I can kind
amazing
of
that love is there, and you're like,
but it's just the day to day.
But that day-to-day grind bit at the start is really hard. So yeah, I think I can fully understand like that is isolating. And I think once you get over it, you start feeling yourself again, because you're about more than just cleaning somebody else up. And I think, Tiffany met me probably when I was like at my absolute, I don't think I even brushed my hair before like leaving the house.
No comment.
Hey, I've been there. Yeah, it's amazing the things that we can do. We have to get out of bed because we have something that relies on us now. We have to, and that becomes our entire world. And that our own self-care, it suffers. It suffers so much for it. There are times where I'm like, did I even brush my teeth today? And we've all been there, and you just feel just like gross, and then with that you get a little bit depressed, and then it just chips at you every day. And it's I don't know, I'm not like a voice of inspiration or anything, but it's just kind of what worked for me was, what, treat yourself to that mascara, put it on, even if you don't feel like it, like, and you're crying while you're doing it because you're like, I don't have time. Those little things that make you remember far and make you feel good. Like, it's so worth it. Even if you take just the 5 seconds that you're on the toilet by yourself, just do it. Just makes you feel like those little things that make you feel yourself. It's so important to embrace those moments. It really is, especially when you're feeling so alien in your own body and your own skin and your own life.
I agree with that. I think children and being a mom does take a lot from you. It is quite emotionally, like, it's just it takes and takes and takes. And obviously it takes a while before you get hopefully, the sacrifice back on the other side. But there is a lot. So how do you, like, I'm interested in your schedule as well. Like, how do you balance your schedule? Like, do you have like apps and because obviously I'm thinking about the mothers listening to this, they might be very busy as well, have a very busy schedule like you. Do you have any tips or something that you do that helps you to just keep everything kind of organized?
Yes, and yes. Okay, so we'll start with the co-parenting app. Yes, we have an app that we communicate through, and
an
that
app?
Yeah, it's like an app that we communicate.
That's so cool.
That we keep everything, like, okay, Atticus is my son, by the way, that he has a appointment on this day. So whoever has him on the custody schedule, it's right there in the app. So it's like, okay, well, I already know, and we both know, we're both aware who that person is, where it is, what time it is, whoever has him takes him. So things like that, or like receipts, like, I paid for the copay on this, here's the receipt for that, and then it just works itself. So that's really helpful for any moms that are split. There's an app. I don't know if it's available in the UK, but in the US it's called Talking Parents. There's one also called.
Sorry to go on about this, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it's really, really helpful. There's another one, and that Talking Parents is free. There's another one that's subscription based, which is Our Family Wizard, which is also an app. It does the same thing, but it allows video calling. So like, if your kid is at dad's house, for example, and wants to do a call, you can do it through there, and then you're not using like personal phone or FaceTime or any of that. It's really nice. It's accountable, and it's all in one place. So it also helps for like, oh, I didn't forget, or you knew that he had a doctor's appointment. Why didn't you take him, or why didn't you pick him up from school? Whatever. It eliminates all of that, so that all of that stress is already gone. So that organization is great. And then when it comes to my career, so with music, it's not always on, it's sometimes we're writing, sometimes there's nothing. Sometimes we're doing 6 videos in a week, which is insane. But, sometimes we're doing things like that. It's a lot of hurry up and wait. Another thing that I do, which I didn't mention because it's not so glamorous in my intro, was the day-to-day stuff that I do to make money is I'm a graphic designer. So that's like a work from home kind of schedule, which allows me to be home with my son as much as I can when he's with me. But also with that, it's juggling, like, when can I do all of my work, which is luckily on a timeline basis. When can I do all of that, but also make sure that I'm not neglecting the needs of my son? Mm-hmm. So, I don't want to be like glued to a computer all day when that's his active time, so it's hard. It really is hard to balance all of that and making sure, as my son is going through this thing where he just doesn't want to eat anything. So, it's like, okay. And so you're making like a meal and then you're like, oh, what's the point? Because he's not going to eat it. And then finding other like creative ways of making sure that he's getting the nutrition he needs. And I've found, by the way, smoothies, that's the way to go.
Okay.
But, that's a smart
Good tip.
Smoothies, anything in a blender, anything, he's up for it. But that's neither here nor there. But it's things like that. It's those little things that you can't account for because you can't predict them. It's those things that are really, really hard to manage with the day-to-day schedule. But I'm so used to the schedule being so chaotic with my, we'll call it my former life, my career and my life before I had my son, where you kind of always had to be adaptable and think on your feet. And so I'm not a stranger to that. That's just kind of, now I'm just having to meet the needs of something else while also doing all of that.
I was going to say those skills still sound really useful, but just in a very different way.
It's helpful.
Probably to a much less reasonable boss, like your little
Absolutely.
kid.
Absolutely, yeah. And yeah, what he says goes. We're almost at that age too. So it's a struggle, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
See, I didn't get the 2s too badly, but 3s have been, we've had the terrible 3s instead.
I mean, I look forward to it.
Is your son quite hyperactive, or is he low energy?
I wouldn't say he's hyperactive. He's definitely he's very curious.
Okay.
So and also, like, it's one of those things where I'm sure all of us can relate. If he's too quiet, then he's doing something naughty.
Yes. Oh God. Yeah. Okay.
But he likes playing with his cars. He's got all these like cars. Cars is his favorite movie. He loves jumping on the trampoline. Like, we've got one here. I've got him enrolled in a socialization class, which is kind of like a skill building class, to like work on his strengths and just interact with other kids. It's like a gym class. It's really sweet. So I wouldn't say he's hyperactive, like bouncing off the walls or anything, but he's definitely moving.
Okay.
See, I've got quite a hyper one.
Yeah.
Ted can be quite a lot, can't he, Tiffany? And Tiffany's got one of each. She's got a nice calm one and a crazy one.
Yeah, it's always interesting to know. My son's super calm. Like, you can just trust him. My daughter knows. She's the opposite. And just yeah, she just intense. That's the best way to put it. So it's always interesting to know. And also, I suppose, adapting. You have to adapt to each child, right, in terms of what you're doing, how you're managing them, because you have to sort of match where they're at and what they're doing. So you said your son go to which class? What classes? Because socialization, did you say?
Yeah, it's like so I had him enrolled in it when he was 8 months old. And that was actually something else that I wanted to circle back on. That was another thing that helped me get out of my isolation. Something that helped me through that was, okay, I don't have any mom friends, and it's not like I'm looking for friends, but I'm just looking to get out of the house with my kid. And I loved doing that. So I enrolled him in this class where you go for an hour and you're in, it's like a mommy and me sort of class, but dads are welcome to. And they have them by age group, and you can enroll from 6 months forward. And then they've got them like from 6 months to a year, and then from a year to 22 months. And then you keep moving up as you get older. And it's everything from like building core strength, like teaching them how to crawl, encouraging them, that sort of thing, to, he's graduated all the way to the 22-month class now, where there are kids that are, I think, all the way up to almost 4. So, that's quite an age gap there. Now he was the tallest in his class. Now he's graduated. He's the pipsqueak now. And so he's different from everybody else. Like, all these kids that are jumping so much higher on him than the trampoline or on the trampoline, or also doing the monkey bars, and he's watching and he's being inspired and he wants to try. It's like monkeys.
Oh, I used to love the monkey bars. I definitely wouldn't have the core strength for that now. But as a kid, it's so cool.
But it's a really cool class, and he's like, I love watching him interact with other kids, because he's very independent, and he really kind of likes to do things on his own. But he's such a nice boy to other kids. Like, they'll come up and they'll maybe they'll take something he has, and he'll be like, okay, and just go get something else.
Yeah.
And he also likes to give things to people too. So he's very sweet, and I've just love watching him. And it's these classes are, if you have one, if you're in the US, it's a chain. It's called My Gym.
Okay.
But I'm sure they have them all over the place. These kind of mommy and me places that really focus on. It's fun for everybody, but there's actual meaning on, like, core strength and socialization skills.
I feel like anything that tires them out as well is like super important.
Absolutely. Nap time always comes at the right time after those classes.
And you said something about, obviously, you seeing it also as an opportunity to meet other mums. Tell us more about how that network and how you've obviously had to take that step, right, to do something like that, to then obviously be around other people with children.
Yeah, that was a big step for me because you know, as somebody that only had my own kid, it was like, okay, I've got to get myself out there and see there's got to be somebody else out there that wants to have a glass of wine. You know what I mean? And lo and behold, everyone does.
The Northeast.
Everyone
Everyone
say.
does. Yeah. Everyone does. And once again, once you start like feeling more like yourself, once you're starting to find people that you can connect with that are just like you in the way that you're thinking and whatever, and maybe they had similar careers or something different, or they've got similar maybe people that you wouldn't have otherwise been friends with or cross paths with in your career, your life, and then you see these people and you're like, oh, I'm so glad I met you, and it was through my son, you know. And again, I never went out. I'm not one of those people that's super social. I'm a homebody. I like to stay home. I don't want to go anywhere, you know, especially go anywhere and meet friends. So the idea of that, the anxiety of that is way worse than actually going out and doing it. And the return that you get from it, you really do start to feel more like yourself, because now you can kind of relate to people, or you find that you're not alone in things that you're feeling and going through. And that in itself was so helpful for me getting myself back on track to remembering who I am, but this newfound version of who I am. It was very, very important. And I also found there's a couple other moms in the music industry that that I can definitely relate to. I'll just name her really quick. Her name is Kiki Wong. She plays guitar for Smashing Pumpkins.
Okay, yeah.
Her and I have she had her son Jet, I think 6 months after Atticus was born. Okay. So her and I have been able to just kind of be like, this is weird, right? You know, and she's on tour right now. She's had to leave her son. She's on a big tour right now. So she's had to leave her son with her dude. And I know that's got to be super, super hard for her. I know that they're FaceTiming all the time. You know, that kind of a touring situation doesn't really, they're not, you know, catering to the family lifestyle, you know?
Yeah.
So
I can imagine, having been a big Smashing Pumpkins fan as a teenager and stuff. Yeah, she's an example of somebody that has to leave their baby at home, but is still, you know, doing her dream. And she's got her, you know, her family and her friends and her support system that are supporting that, you know, even though she's not. Sorry, Sammi, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. I love getting on a bit of a, but what about the men sort of thing as well? And like, I guess that's not the kind of thing that the dads who are off on tour get asked quite as much. You know, like, we've asked you to come on here and talk about babies and your career, but I guess there's a lot of guys doing the same that just aren't being asked any of these questions.
Yeah, you're right. It isn't. Well, I know that my son's father, I know that he loves talking about Atticus. He loves it. And so I think that if you're put yourself in a situation where, you know, you're very vocal about your kids online, or you know, they've got a big presence in your life, then I think those questions kind of come naturally. You know, like, people will look on their social media and be like, oh, okay, you're a dad, so we can maybe ask some questions about that. And I think maybe I think you're right. I don't think anybody would ever approach him to be like, hey, can you come on to a podcast and talk about being a dad? I don't think anybody would do that. But I do think that it is, you know, the double standard isn't as strong as it used to be. You know, I really feel like dads are very involved now. And not that they never were before, but I think it's just, I don't know, more socially, I don't want to say acceptable. That's not the word either. But I feel like dads just have such a much bigger presence. And it's very vocalized. And, you know, I think we can all say that we're very thankful for that.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. Actually, I'm joking.
Sorry, we keep talking over each other this time. I think we're just so excited to be like, oh. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's good that it's changing and that those questions are coming to the men and stuff before. I was just thinking before, I bet Billy Corgan's got kids. And like, I wonder if anyone's asking him about it. Like, you know, like, you should be on tour, Billy.
Yeah. Probably not. The times are changing, but you're right. It's still very much, you know, it's a woman's game when it comes to this sort of thing. And yeah, I mean, just to kind of touch on your little joke there, Tiffany, it's like, yeah, sometimes I wish the dads wouldn't have an opinion. You know, it's like, oh, get out of here with that, you know, especially in my case. but I am much happier that for the greater good of my son, that he does have a father that really, really wants to be involved and really cares about him. And I know that, although his father and I don't get along and we don't see eye to eye on things, I know that we both want the very best for him, and that's what I can hang my hat on at the end of the day.
Yeah, I love that. That's important. Yeah, because life does what life does, but as long as you have that commonality, or at least your son knows that love is there, then he's lucky.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I'm really grateful for this chat. I think it's been interesting. So what's next for you, Sammi? Like, what's next in the next phase of your son being 2 and your career? Like, what's happening now, and what are you going to be doing?
That's a good question. So we do have, as I mentioned earlier, we do with Kat Von D, we've got some dates that are coming up for the end of the year. She's got an album that's going to be released, I think end of September. End of September. And then from that, they'll be touring. And, there's, as structured as your life can be. And again, I'm very, very thankful that I have my graphic design job, because I can do that from anywhere. As structured as your life can be with children, it's so unpredictable sometimes. But again, I'm not a stranger to that, because just in the music industry, anything can change at any moment. I've been in rehearsal, like full-blown production rehearsals where there's lights and we're on the stage and we're like doing everything, making sure we're about to leave, like the bus is on its way, and the tour gets canceled. And you're like, what? So things that you think are absolutes, you just have to be adaptable to the idea that, nothing is certain. But what I can take away from my new part of my life is that my son is certain. Yeah. My son is a certain thing no matter what. And it's always going to be, although my career and everything was number one for me in the past, my son is always number one. And it's so weird. It's like, as soon as you have your baby, you're like, well, that's baked in. It's like, that's baked in. You're my number one. And I've never thought twice about that. If I couldn't do if I couldn't do the things that I had done in the past, I would have found a way to still find my passion. Writing music is something that I don't have to do from the road, or I could play locally, or do something like that. But just because there are circumstances in your life that change, such as like having a baby, that doesn't take away from who you are. It really adds to it. You can still write music. In my case, like, I love performing, I love writing, I love just being around music, and my son is now a part of all of that. He's a part of the writing process. He's an inspiration to me. He loves, we've got keyboards and synths set up all over the house, and he loves just playing on different things. We've got a super out of tune piano, which is his favorite thing to play, obviously. But I just love his interest, and he's so cheeky, and like, he wants me to watch him. So I can see that my love, and his to his dad's credit as well. He's also a performer. He's definitely embraced that. It's in his blood, and so I love seeing that through my son, and just the love that we both share for music and performing really being passed down to him and encouraged. So that being said, what's next for me? I don't know. I do have things that are planned, and I have a lot of things that are completely chaos and unplanned. but that's how I've always kind of lived my life, and my son has really grounded me a little bit more to a schedule, and more to I don't want to say honoring commitments, but really following through to keeping it on controlled chaos. I'll put it this way, like keeping it onto a controlled chaos sort of schedule because of his needs. So again, for me, it's always just been about being adaptable, and I think the future is going to need a lot of that as well.
Love that.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been super interesting.
Yeah. I feel like I could keep talking to you. There's so many like things I want to know, but time is of the essence. I do know that. I'd love to know, I mean, where can people find you online, in case you are open to, I don't know, for following you on Instagram, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I'm definitely open to it. I'm open to all of that. I'd love to still, again, have these conversations with you guys offline or whatever, but so you can find me on Instagram. It's just my name, Sammi Doll. And I'm also I'm on everything except for TikTok. I can't do that one.
Yeah, God, yeah.
Just a little old for that one now. And I know everyone's like, oh, you got to be on that if you want your music career. And I'm like, I don't know.
I'd rather be someone else to do that.
Yeah, exactly. I'd rather be making music and writing it than figuring out another platform. So anything except TikTok under the name Sammi Doll is where you can find me. And I'd love to continue this conversation with anybody that is interested.
Yeah, I think we'll put the links up as well in the I say we, I mean Tiffany will put the links up in the episode notes. But yeah, be great to talk to you again in the future. Really good luck with the tour, and be great to talk to you again after that and see how it's gone with Atticus and see how he's enjoyed it, I guess.
Yeah, that'd be great. Let's do it.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sammi.
Thanks so much, Sammi.
Pleasure.
Yeah. No, it's fine. I was going to say let's take a picture, but we can do that once we've stopped recording.
We can. Take care, everybody.